Hey everyone, today we're diving into a powerful Bible story about courage, fear, and God's faithfulness, when the prophet Elijah ran away from King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. It's a story filled with highs and lows, and I promise it's one you'll relate to. Let's get started. Now, before we get to Elijah's escape, let me set the stage. Elijah was a prophet of God, and he had just won a huge showdown on Mount Carmel against 450 prophets of Baal. You see, the people of Israel had been worshipping false gods because of King Ahab and Queen Jezebel. Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal to a test to prove whose God was real. He said, "Let's both build altars. You call on your God, and I'll call on the Lord. The God who answers with fire, that's the true God." 1 Kings 18:24. The prophets of Baal cried out all day. Nothing. But when Elijah prayed to the Lord, fire came down from heaven and burned up the offering, the wood, the stones, everything. The people fell to their knees and said, "The Lord, He is God." It was an incredible moment. Elijah must have felt on top of the world. But here's where the story takes a surprising turn. Queen Jezebel was not happy. Elijah had humiliated her prophets and shown the power of the true God. So she sent a message to Elijah saying, "May the gods deal with me ever so severely if I don't make your life like one of theirs by this time tomorrow." 1 Kings 19:2. In plain English, Jezebel threatened to kill Elijah soon, and even though Elijah had just seen God perform an incredible miracle, fear suddenly gripped his heart. Elijah ran, and I mean he ran. The Bible says he fled for his life. He traveled to Beersheba, a place far from Jezebel's reach, and then went into the wilderness. Can you imagine what Elijah must have been feeling? Fear, exhaustion, maybe even confusion. How could things go so wrong after such a great victory? At one point, Elijah sat down under a tree and prayed, "I've had enough, Lord. Take my life. I'm no better than my ancestors." 1 Kings 19:4. Elijah was so overwhelmed that he wanted to give up completely. Have you ever felt like that? When life just feels too heavy and you want to quit? But here's where God's kindness shines through. As Elijah slept under the tree, an angel came to him. Not to scold him, not to criticize him, but to care for him. The angel touched Elijah and said, "Get up and eat." When Elijah looked around, there was fresh bread baking over hot coals and a jar of water waiting for him. So he ate, drank, and rested. Then the angel came back again and said, "Get up and eat, for the journey is too much for you." 1 Kings 19:7. God didn't ignore Elijah's pain. He met Elijah right where he was, tired, scared, and discouraged, and gave him exactly what he needed: rest, food, and comfort. Strengthened by that food, Elijah traveled for 40 days and 40 nights until he reached Mount Horeb, the mountain of God. There, Elijah stayed in a cave, and God came to speak with him. Now, this is one of my favorite parts of the story. God asked Elijah, "What are you doing here?" 1 Kings 19:9. And Elijah poured out his heart, saying, "I've been zealous for you, Lord, but now I'm alone, and they're trying to kill me." Can you hear Elijah's weariness? He felt isolated and hopeless, like everything he'd done didn't matter. But God was about to remind Elijah of something powerful. First, there was a powerful wind that tore through the mountains, but God wasn't in the wind. Then there was an earthquake, but God wasn't in the earthquake. After that came a fire, but God wasn't in the fire. Finally, there came a gentle whisper. And when Elijah heard it, he knew. God was there. Sometimes we look for God in big, dramatic moments, but He often speaks to us in a quiet whisper, in the stillness. God gently reminded Elijah that he wasn't alone. He still had a purpose. And guess what? God told Elijah that there were 7,000 people in Israel who hadn't bowed to Baal. Elijah wasn't as alone as he thought. So what can we learn from Elijah's story? First, it's okay to feel overwhelmed. God meets us in our weakness and provides what we need, just like He did for Elijah. Second, God is always with us, even in the quiet moments when we feel alone. And finally, your story isn't over. Elijah thought his life was finished, but God still had a mission for him. In the same way, God isn't done with you either. If you're going through a tough time, remember Elijah's journey. Rest, listen for God's whisper, and trust that He still has a purpose for your life. Thank you for watching. If this story encouraged you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring Bible stories.